Alright, I am going to turn my transmission off by setting its weight back to 0. Now it looks like my teapot has gone very flat. I will turn my specular weight up just so I get some of those nice curves back. And then I will twirl up the 3 attributes I've already covered. The first one I've got under transmission is subsurface, and subsurface is the idea that there are objects out there where the top of the surface is slightly transparent and you get the effect of underneath surfaces. The most obvious example of this is human skin. You know how you hold a flashlight up to your skin and the whole thing turns red because you can see all of your veins and all the blood under your skin? That's subsurface scattering. When I turn subsurface on, it's going to look like the teapot turns white. Part of that is just that my subsurface color is white. If I switch this to red, it will look like the teapot turns red with these interesting white highlights. Those are being affected by my radius value. They're saying the radius of the top surface is white, the underneath color is red, so the areas like the body of the pot are going to show more red. As I adjust the scale, I should be able to get more red or more white areas. The method that I'm using for the type of subsurface scattering is set to random walk. I could also be using diffusion, which would get me a different result, and random walk version 2, which again would get me a different result. And you'll get to play around with this a little bit. Subsurface is one of those attributes that at first you're like, okay, that human skin, okay, I can use this for human skin, but the more you think about it, the more things have subsurface scattering applied to them. Fruit. Almost all fruit has a skin to it and collects some of the juicy light from the translucent meat of the fruit. Cloth generally has a little bit of subsurface scattering. Marble does, snow does, so I tend to use this a lot in my own work. I'm going to turn it back off, and that way we can take a look at the coat. Coat acts like a clear coat, so like the varnish that you put on top of your nail polish or the sealing coat that they put on car paint. Basically what it's going to do is give me a second layer of specularity, let's call it. So I've got these perfect, beautiful specular highlights on the surface, and now that I've added the coat, I'll see a little bit more rim lighting, and I may also be able to increase some of the roughness of the rim light while keeping the under part of the surface completely perfect. So that's the idea of the coat. It's going to give me a clear coat effect. I will turn that off and discuss sheen. When I turn on the sheen, you'll see that this gives me almost a velvety appearance. And this is just something that it's putting on top of the other attributes. And again, I can give it a color if I wanted, so I could give it like a little bit of a soft red coat. And as always, I can increase or decrease my roughness so that I can get more of an edge effect or less of one. So that's sheen, and it can be very useful. Anytime you want to make iridescence, this is a good way to start. The last attribute that we'll be talking about is emission. And emission is kind of fun. This is a way to make your object have a little bit of a glow. It's not great, but if you need to use something as a light bulb, you can turn it into an emissive object or make it partially emissive, and that way it'll show up even if the scene is really dark. It's almost like a glow. And yes, again, here I can change the color and make this emit a blue glow or a red glow. It's not that useful, but when you do need to make something glow, it's good to have this here. So as I go through these, base is for the general color coming off of the object. Specular is for the shine. Transmission is when you want to have light pass through the surface. You want to make it translucent. Subsurface will allow you to create the illusion that you have a layered material. Coat gives you a clear coat. Sheen creates iridescence, and emission allows you to emit light. The last thing I'll say is that with all of these attributes, you see that they've got a data entry box, a slider, and one of these black and white checkboxes. Anytime there's a black and white checkbox, that means that I can map another node, any one of these, to that attribute. That's something to keep in the back of your head again, because it means that I don't have to use just straight color or just straight numbers. I can map these really specifically. So that's what we'll be taking a look at in the next section.